So I'd like to hear your opinion on obesity. In the U.S., about 40% of the population is considered to be obese.
Mm-hmm.
What
do we think about it?
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I think that first of all, I think that's probably a gross underestimation of the amount of fat people in the world. Now, I know a lot of people do not. I catch a lot of shit for saying something like fat, but at the end of the day, nobody gets upset when you refer to someone as skinny, or tall or thin or fat. I mean, at the end of the day, the reality is that you can be overweight, you can be underweight, you can be short, you can be tall. But look, if you look at a guy as an example, if you look at a guy and you go, hey, wow, man, you're really short. That's not typically, someone can overreact to that. They could be like, yo, man, I'm not short. I'm just this tall,
Yeah.
And you go, oh, man, you're fat. It's like, whoa, bro, I'm not fat.
Yeah.
I just weigh more than I'm supposed to. I mean, you can play these games, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that as soon as we start to occupy a particular state, we then begin to defend that state. And we've done that with obesity. We've done that with health. You're not supposed to fat shame anyone, which, first of all, that is the equivalent to short shaming someone. It's like, at the end of the day, I don't think that you should call a person short in order to make fun of them, nor do I think you should call a person fat in order to make fun of them. I don't think you should refer to a person as obese, but that's the clinical term. Mm-hmm. If your doctor comes out and says, well, you're clinically obese. I mean, is that a compliment? You can say you're clinically fat,
right,
or you're clinically obese, same. So I think the first thing is people that have become clinically obese, fat, overweight, they're now very sensitive and offended if you challenge the behavior that is producing that type of condition, and instead of placing the burden of effort on them to change it, they place the burden on everyone else to modify and adjust our reality or a person's reality to accommodate what is ultimately misbehavior. Mm-hmm. And it's the equivalent to a smoker who chooses to smoke, which again, okay, fine, choose to smoke. But if your smoke is now contaminating my area and I'm inhaling it, then it's no longer something that is, that is limited to only you. Mm-hmm. If a person who's clinically obese is overeating and becoming diseased and ill, they have diabetes, they have high blood pressure, they have heart disease, this individual is now also burdening the healthcare system, and they're also driving up the prices of the healthcare system, and they're taxing it, and they're causing people who are living healthy and consciously and purposefully, they're causing everyone else to have to bear the burden of the behavior. Mm-hmm. And, so a lot of people feel that I'm, they take issue with this position that, it's like, I don't feel good about, my mom's fat or my dad's fat or my friends are fat or I'm fat or and I'm offended. Like, and why are you judging people? I'm not judging people. I'm simply, as a scientist does, I'm observing the behavior of someone, and the same person who will claim that I shouldn't be trying to interfere or interrupt the behavior of an obese person is the same person that will turn around and have the exact opposite position for a smoker. Mm-hmm. oh, well, people shouldn't smoke. Wait a minute. People shouldn't smoke and get cancer and then burden the healthcare system, and we all have to now pay for people to have this privilege to kill themselves, which again, I literally have no problem with people choosing to live a lifestyle that shortens their lifespan. I have no judgment around it, quite honestly, I don't. But if I have to bear the burden of it, I do. Mm-hmm. I do not agree that I should have to bear the burden of another person who does not, again, every person who has to offset the price of healthcare because of the misbehavior of other people, is really has the right, really truly you have the right to not agree. And I don't agree. I don't agree with obesity. I don't agree with overeating and food. Again, if a person is obese because of some medical condition, I hear that, and I would also like to see a case-by-case, study of that, because for the most part, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that a person just can't not eat. Their health is not tied to them not eating. Nobody is, that I'm not aware of any health condition that requires you to overeat. I'm not aware of it. Yeah, and somebody can please, let me know about it, but I'm not familiar with you being required to overeat. Mm-hmm. So when people say, oh, you have a thyroid condition, this condition, it's like, listen, I understand that there may be legitimate medical conditions that cause you to carry weight a certain way. Mm-hmm. And that's understandable. That's one thing. That doesn't explain that 40% of the U.S. population is obese, not fat, not quote unquote overweight, is obese. Yeah. So that's 40% of the population. Yeah. And then you've got the rest of the population that's just overweight. Mm-hmm. So, look, we've all got work to do, but for a person to overconsume resources, to then become ill, and to ask me to participate in paying for that illness, it's all just out of integrity and out of alignment. And the fact that we actually accommodate it and allow it is the greater conversation that needs to be had, is why we actually, as a society and as a people, why we are so comfortable with comforting, why we are so conditioned to comfort people who just don't want to work. And I feel that that's one of our greatest blind spots, certainly in the United States. Everybody has the right to be whatever the fuck they want to be. Mm-hmm. If I want to be fat, I can be fat. If I want to be obese, I can be obese. And don't you look at me and tell me I can't be, or try to shame me. It's like, no problem. But you need to bear all the burden of responsibility for creating that condition for yourself. Mm-hmm. And then we have a deal. No problem. Otherwise, you really have to take good care of yourself, because when you live in a society, what is implied by choosing to live in a society is that you are choosing to cooperate in a way that is beneficial for the good of the society. That behavior is not beneficial for the good. It actually strains the system, just as smoking does, just as alcohol overconsumption does. Mm-hmm. Anything that's, and again, any overconsumption mm-hmm. of food, of drugs, of alcohol, of entertainment, of pleasures, of anything. Any overconsumption of that, again, becomes a burden for the other people that share space with you and cooperate mm-hmm. and coexist. So I do not hold the same views as some people might hold on obesity, I think, and again, if you want to ask me why, the question might be, why do I think people are obese versus what do I think about obesity? That's what I think. I think about obesity as it should not be occurring. Mm-hmm. It is something that is the symptom of human overindulgence, of human anxiety, of human depression, of human excess, of us, we're trying to do so much, and food just becomes another way we get to comfort ourselves when we're either not achieving it or we are achieving it, whatever. It's a reward if you are achieving it. It's a comfort when you're not achieving it. It's just this thing we're using because we have so much of it.
Yeah.
We really produce far more food than we could consume. That's why so much food gets thrown away every year.
Yeah.
How, when it comes to, why are people obese? To suggest that, of course, it's psychological would be the primary cause. To question how you can change that is beyond our there is no way we can actually shift society from being obese or fat without simultaneously changing the level of happiness of citizens, because they're tied together.
Okay.
And what you'll find is the countries that are rated as having the happiest people also have correlating data that suggests they also have healthier people.
Okay.
This is just the nature of nature.
Yeah.
It's how we are. And so if you're going to change obesity in America, you literally have to change the amount of happiness here. Then you start to notice, because let me give you an example. If cars become electric, and we start to notice that there's a decline in combustible engines, what we're going to also notice is correlating data that is necessary, and I'm going to get to it. It's necessary data that because it's going to explain why electric cars are becoming more popular. And that data is that lithium batteries are becoming more affordable. If this battery becomes less expensive, this car becomes cheaper to build.
Yeah.
If this car becomes cheaper to build and this car goes longer distances for less money, it has less moving parts. That means it has less labor. That means it lasts longer. And you're a company like Amazon Prime, and you're looking for a fleet of vehicles that just go and go and go and take very little maintenance, to have very low fuel costs. What would you buy?
Yeah, of course.
It's a no-brainer,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
So that's what's going to occur.
Yeah.
Internal combustible engines are going to slowly become obsolete because electric vehicles are going to become more affordable, but not just because the electric vehicle becomes more affordable, but because the components that support it are going to become more affordable, which is the same reason the car industry exploded, because when oil became easier to access and more abundant, you could build more cars to run off of it. They work together. That's what's the correlation.
Okay.
Nothing exists as sort of as this independent floating thing.
Right.
In these, when you're looking at how, at an equation, it's like a trend of something. So with obesity, when you look at the trend of obesity, what you're going to notice is the more, it's not the more food we got. We've always had access to food since we became industrialized.
Yeah.
Since we figured out how to farm, we had food, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But why are we fat? It's not because we have so much food. It's because we're unhappy. And if we don't get that figured out, there's never going to be a reversal of that trend.
Okay.
Because that trend is correlating,
Yeah.
or it's completely connected to, it's running parallel with the fact that we're also stressed as fuck, we're unhappy, we're full of anxiety, we don't know what real joy is because we've placed our trust in material possessions, and now that's been failing us for years and years. Like we've started, as we're figuring out, well, this isn't it, this isn't it, this isn't it. Right. What we start to see is there is this thing that they're running side by side. Wow, that's interesting. As people have become less happy, they've also become more overweight. Huh, how interesting, or less healthy. No doubt. And so if you're going to really address obesity in the United States specifically, because we're definitely the most obese country in the world, it would be by first addressing the fact that we are also terribly unhappy, though we might think we are incredibly happy because we're the freest country in the world. But actually, we're so free that we are free to pursue, we're free to pursue life to its full heights, which are only measured by its full depth. And so there's this thing about this ability to go out there and experience excess. And Americans demand excess in a way. We almost I have the right to excess.
Yeah.
I can buy excess, and I have the freedom to excess. And that is, of course, showing up in our excessive obsession with material and food and whatever. But it's definitely the obsession with having everything and all that we want also has now manifested in us having become gluttonous and greedy and generally dissatisfied, because we keep getting these little hits,
Right.
these little, right, just like with your Instagram, you get that little hit, but then you just realize it's really very empty, and and there's really nothing there. There's no nutrition, and humans, especially in the United States, eating all of this food, and not just the United States, Latin America, South America, fucking tremendous issues around nutritional content in their food, eating shit. And again, it's happening all over the world, but it's definitely a massive issue with North America and South America. Yeah. But the obesity, which is also connected to another correlating factor, not just our unhappiness, but the rise in concentrated sugars and fats and salts, empty calorie shit food. So with the convenience food, easier and cheaper, and able the lack of fucking joy and happiness and real fucking content of life. Right. That's not there. All of this, coming together, creates ultimately what is the perfect storm for obesity. Okay. Yeah. It's right. So it's not just because, imagine you got a civilization of people that really aren't very happy, but they don't have access to a lot of food. How are they going to be obese? Yeah. They have access. They're really unhappy. They have access to a lot of food, but it's really very simple, clean food. It's really not full of empty calories. How are they going to be obese? It's going to be difficult. Yeah. But you see what I'm saying by the perfect storm? It's everything coming up together, creating this merging or converging, this converging body of factors that, and again, it's how science works. Things have to converge in a way sort of along the same line, and then you notice, what's this trend? Yeah. But it's usually not isolated. Yeah, it doesn't stand on its own. When you're looking for the connections. So with the convenience food, with the level of stress and anxiety and unhappiness, then given our work, the way we work,
Yeah.
the fact that we live, in sort of in the way that we live, less maybe the less access we have to outside or city, to grass and trees and nature. Again, when you could just start running these lines, and what you find is, we're just getting more and more, we're just becoming more and more prisoners of our own design.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that at the end of the day, it's a very disturbing trend, and it's not changing. Like, it's not like, oh, look, obesity is really going down. No, obesity is going up.
Right. Because so are the others.
Absolutely, because everything's going up.
Yeah.
So and again, and what's worse is we're not allowed to challenge anybody. It's getting less socially acceptable for you to actually look at a person and challenge them for being obese. And I'm not saying you walk up on the street and go, hey man, any more than I would walk up to a smoker and go, hey man, it's your business. I get it. Except that it's also impacting me and everyone else. So at the end of the day, it's just something that we have to realize, that it's a social responsibility to be healthy.
Right.
It's actually not something that is just this independent, sort of, you're not an island. You are definitely not an island.
Right.
That you are having an effect on everyone around you.
Yeah.
So it's a responsibility for you to be healthy. Mentally, physically, you have to be doing your work, because that's also another way you contribute to society, is by not being a burden on it. One of the greatest gifts you can give society is by not burdening it. Because society does better the less people that are straining its systems. So the more people that are going to the hospital, the more you strain the medical care system. And if you strain it, then you also kill other people who may be in need with acute injuries, because there's no availability because of all the people who are dying from chronic illness.
Yeah.
Chronic illness is not necessary in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
And acute, you can't help. You get in a car accident, it happens. You break your leg on the football field.
Yeah.
But these chronic illnesses are most chronic illness, of course, is preventable by just taking good care of yourself.
Yeah.
So I know I have a hard line on it. I know it may offend people. I know people might be disturbed by that position, because people have people in their lives that are obese, that are overweight.
Yeah.
But the reality is, do you want me to tell you the truth, or do you want me to lie to you? I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it's okay to be obese. It's not. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I think it's okay for you to do anything that's going to place burden on society as a whole, because you just decide that that's something you want to do. And the statistics, the numbers, again, if being obese didn't strain the healthcare system, hey man, go for it. If smoking didn't strain the healthcare system and strains, go for it. But the fact is, the science says it does. It's not even a debate whether or not the healthcare system is burdened by obesity and by poor diets and chronic illness. It is not burdened by a fast, quickly occurring, issue, like somebody just, as I said, suddenly breaks their leg. Acute injury is not, connected to burdening the healthcare system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's my position on obesity. And again, it's not a judgment. It's a simple reality check. I would say the same thing about someone who's addicted to heroin, someone who's addicted to crystal meth. I mean, it's an addiction.
Yeah.
And the addiction is a problem. And the fact that we're not going to address eating when people are obese, we're not going to address it as a genuine illness, as a genuine dis-ease that is, again, connected to people's emotional states, and so is heroin, and so is any crystal meth, anything that's like highly addictive, because people are not happy. And it's got nothing to do with the drug. It's just the fact that the drug gives them a place to feel, peace. It gives them a place to escape suffering and be in pleasure. And so food does the same thing for people. And unfortunately, all of it has to be addressed. And it's not about being intolerant as a society. It's about being disagreeable. I am not going to agree with you that it's okay to be fat.
Right,
it's okay to be addicted to heroin. It's okay to be, that it's okay to smoke. It's not okay to do anything if other people have to bear the burden of your behavior.
Yeah.
It's not okay. And I think that's perfectly okay for me, and I encourage all my students to be disagreeable, not difficult, but disagreeable, which means I don't have to agree with the modern perspective on everybody has the right to do whatever they want, and that it's politically incorrect to challenge a person for their, in terms of their behavior, if it is in fact socially impacting the collective in a negative way. I am going to choose to be disagreeable around that, and I am going to choose to do something about it. So for us, Budokon is one way we do something about it. We give people a place to come and do that work.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to, they're not going to walk in the door. I'm not going to look at them, and I'm not going to say, hey man, you're the perfect weight. I'm going to say, what's your perfect weight? That's what the question I have. I'm okay that you're overweight, or I'm okay that you're underweight, because the same problem exists on the other side for people who are, have eating disorders.
Right.
But it's still an emotional issue.
Yeah.
It's a psychological problem.
Correct.
But the bottom line is, I'm going to say the same thing. What's your perfect weight? Where do we want to be? And I mean perfect weight by not a number that you just made up because you went, well, what are you supposed to weigh? What did you weigh in high school? Because oftentimes it's that simple.
Yeah.
It's like, what did you weigh when you felt the best?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I weighed 120. Great. Perfect. Let's get there. Unless that's just some number, I'm just like, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Because again, your perfect weight is a weight you're supposed to weigh when you do not have excessive or even excess body fat on you.
Yeah.
that is not again in the realm of just basic natural fat that would be present on you if you were eating a clean, healthy diet, you were moving your body and training, and you were happy. Your body is immediately going to begin to adjust, and it is going to begin to occupy that particular state.
Its natural state.
Absolutely. And again, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to pretend to have a crystal ball.
Right.
I'm just going to say we're going to find out what it is, because we're going to get all of these factors tuned up and in alignment, and we're going to find you being happy. We're going to find you eating really clean, really healthy food. We're not going to find you eating a lot. We're going to find you eating only when necessary. We're going to find you eating only from joy.
Yeah.
We're going to find you connecting with your food and not abusing that experience in that relationship. And that's what's going to get us to your proper health.
Okay.